Hey, it's EfreetEater. How's it going today? Let's talk about Samurai Jack, Season 5, Episode 8. Now, for some reason, I thought this was the last episode, so I was really confused when I watched it, because this episode breaks the narrative. This episode has really nothing to do with Aku. This episode has nothing to do with, the story of him regaining his sword and then continuing on his journey. It's just kind of a love story between Jack and Ashi, which is something I thought was kind of hinted at, but I thought, oh, he's like too old for her, which is like kind of true and kind of not. I mean, he's like 70 basically at this point, but I guess physically he isn't. I don't know. Anyway, this was a weird episode. It was more of like a retelling of the movie Alien than a Samurai Jack episode, and I'll tell you why. So first off, we start with a spaceship that is coming to Earth, or whatever Jack's planet is. And I'm not sure if this is in the past or in the Aku era. But that happens. It lands down and it's kind of like, huh? Because then we go back to Jack and Ashi. They're getting on a train in a city. He takes her to like a city and they eat a bunch of food. And it's weird and his head turns into a fish. It's really strange. Anyway, they get on a train, and there's a bunch of tigers. They're surrounded by these tigers, and the tigers are wearing black turtlenecks with red letters, just like you'd imagine Team Rocket in Pokemon, or like an 80s spy, or 80s, like a 60s spy film. And the sequence really resembled Eastern European animation, especially like 60s style animation. And I thought that was really cool, and of course that's a big influence on Genndy Tartakovsky. So that was cool to see. It reminded me of the earlier episode where Jack was running from the weird, like, gremlin children. Anyway, the tiger shirt letters keep spelling out, like, death and Samurai Jack must die and stuff like that. And I thought that was pretty cool. Jack is really cautious, and they keep, like, brushing against each other when they're on the train, and it, there's like a sexual tension going on. There was a funny joke. It seems so strange to have these kind of adult jokes in Samurai Jack, but there was a funny joke where Ashi says, "I feel something hard and pointy," and it's Jack's sword. And of course that's like a standard joke, but it was just strange to see it here. Anyway, a fight breaks out once they figure out. It kind of like comes to like we are in love, and then a fight breaks out. It's kind of like the culminating sequence. And the fight is really well played out, and it shows them relying on each other, holding hands and swinging around. And it's really nice animation. Everything moves very, like, fantastically. Something about the way the tigers are moving and just the animation, something about it was very mesmerizing. So, they're able to escape the train. They flee through a dust storm into this big building. And the building is bigger inside than expected. It's actually the spaceship. Ashi makes a bunch of these jumps. Jack is like, watch out, you gotta be careful. And she lands really carefully. And, it's funny. She kind of upstaged him. Anyway, then they find a prison cell. And the prison cell, something has escaped, and there's like this insect that appears. And Ashi is attacked by it, and there's this green goop on her body, and Jack actually sucks the poison out. So here, like I said, it's a love story. We're getting more into, the details of their romance. And this is actually where I felt like the love was kind of cool. The love story was kind of cool because they were equals. it seemed like. Anyway, the spaceship is bigger than expected, and Jack is stunned, which I thought was strange because he isn't a stranger to futuristic technology. I mean, he's been in this world for 50 years, but I think it's maybe just that it is so large and so massive, it's like its own world in there. So then, after, you know, we're shocked by this large ship, they find another even larger prison cell, and they fight against this giant bug beast that's composed of all kind of bugs crawling all over each other. It's kind of cool, but I feel like it looks a little strange. Ashi throws these like glass shurikens, which is pretty cool, and it cuts all the bugs up, and then they escape in this steam cloud from Jack cutting a hole in the floor. And an alarm goes off, and there's this computer that warns them of Lazarus, the bug beast, and it tells them how to defeat it. But Ashi interrupts. She comes in and says something, and Jack misses how they're supposed to defeat it. So she suits up with a weapon and a shield, and this whole kind of sequence is resembling Alien again, with like Ripley getting equipment, and again with like a sort of horror element in corridors in a spaceship. It's not as dark as that, like there isn't like literally as much darkness, and it isn't as serious. Anyway, they fight against the beast again. Jack is holding this like the weapon the computer gave him, which is like this disc. And when they're fighting this beast, Ashi's clothes are eaten by the bugs. And again, this was like, what? Jack is embarrassed. Ashi's like, I don't care. And Jack gives her his robe. He says something like, you know, men and women, there are private parts, or something like that. And she says something about the robe, and he says, actually, it's a gi, but there you go. And that was funny. Okay, so the beast reforms into a few tougher looking creatures. Maybe like somewhere 4 to 6 of them. They're big, kind of like Super Shredder or something. And the insects start looking like little sharks. There's a... I can't hold it anymore! And Jack uses the weapon, which again is round, so I don't know if that suggests anything. I feel like it is. Anyway, it bursts open and electrocutes all the beasts. And there's a, like, obviously a sexual metaphor to this, because everything ends up all wet with bug goop, and they're breathing really hard, and they're kissing to Dean Martin. And again, I'm thinking, okay, the circle burst. Anyway, yeah, so there you go. I actually kind of liked that ending. But it was ultimately really strange. It was especially strange for this series, but that was kind of what made it really cool. The only thing, again, that was really weird about this was the episode really broke the tone and broke the action of the plot before. Because we went from Jack got his sword, okay, we're ready to fight our coup, to this love story. Very light-hearted love story sequence. Also, where pretty much all the other episodes were really dark. Yeah, I mean, I like the lightheartedness. But again, you know, it was kind of strange. It was a nice episode. It really felt like an older Samurai Jack episode. I thought it was cool. It was kind of just its own story. But yeah, you know, I'm ready to get back into the fight. Again, I only thought there were 8 episodes, so I thought this was really weird. I was so confused. But there are 2 more. So be back next week when I talk about Samurai Jack Season 5, Episode 9. And I'll be back with more games and more games and more games. Anyway, we'll see you next time. Have a good one.